Okay, we're gonna take a look at ThinkOrSwim. Now, I don't want to lose into you guys, okay? We want to keep this interesting and not glaze our eyes over. And I realize once we start delving into UIs and technicals and things like that, you know, maybe this is a case where you come and rewatch some section of this if you feel like your eyes glossed over a little bit. But it is a relatively complicated interface. Here's what you're going to see when you first get in here. And I just want to show you guys a couple things to start off and do, just to get you configured. And then I'm going to show you my configuration. We're going to put on a trade. We're going to look at what a stop looks like, what a sell order looks like, how easy it is to buy. And next week, we will delve more into what is this chart stuff and how do I look at the company in Trade Canary to give me that confidence to start making purchases, right? So this is just going to be a very quick overview of what I want to see you guys configure in ThinkOrSwim so that we're on the same wavelength and we're moving forward and we all are talking about the exact same thing. So number one is a watch list. So you can go down bottom left of ThinkOrSwim, add a gadget, add a watch list. They pre-configure a couple symbols, a couple stocks for you to watch. Now I've got inside of Trade Canary some symbols for you to add here. Let me just pull that up real quick actually. Let's see, I've got it in one of these tabs. Okay, again, I'm not gonna talk through much of this until next week, but if you add these symbols that I've got in Trade Canary, you are monitoring the entire global financial system in real time. And now think of how cool that is. I mean, it's really just pretty impressive to watch. And just quick preview of what I'll mention next week. Once you have a view of how these symbols move together, just, you know, example, /MES, this is the mini S&P futures. So you're watching in real time the S&P. We can just put her up in our chart here. So this is the 1 hour chart of the S&P. Here's today's trading. It's not moving around much. I'm gonna leave it there, but so click create a watch list, and then we come in here and we build our watch list by just copy pasting or typing them out from the Trade Canary link. So I'm not gonna do all of them, but here's what you do to create your watch list, okay? And then next, we're gonna link our watch list to our chart. So we click this little link button on our newly created watch list. We select a color, whatever you wanna pick, right? So let's just do yellow. And then notice here on our chart, we have the same thing. I realize this may be hard to see, but see that little red one here? Let's flip this over to yellow. Okay, now whenever I click something on my watch list, it's gonna flip the chart to that symbol. Okay, now I'm gonna flip it over to my configuration and we'll just talk through some of the rest of this stuff and I'll show you guys a trade here. So another quick configuration, we're not using the charts object here. If you see it on the top here, we're gonna go to flexible grid. And this is what I'm gonna output for you guys so you can just quick spin into my setup. Now, I have a very large monitor. I realize that not everybody does. So, and I of course use my laptop too, right? So I've got different configurations that have a different layout, but present me with the same information. So I've got a laptop configuration. Oops, my fault there. And you know, we don't need to spend too much time on this. I'm gonna give you these configurations. You're gonna be able to jump right into it. And if you want to get updates as I make them, I will keep the profile alive on it. So making a trade. This is dangerously more like a video game than you'd want. So we are looking at the mini NASDAQ here. So by mini, it means it's not the full contract size. So if the full contract size moves $25 per tick, this one moves $2.50. We don't need to go deep down and dive in this. I just want to show you guys how simple it is to make a trade here. So we're watching the live price action on the NASDAQ right now in the active trader in this center piece here. You can see as sales come through, it updates here. you know what? I'm not gonna, let's not look at the NASDAQ. This thing moves like a banshee. So we're gonna go to Intel. This is one of my favorite positions to start building out right now is Intel. Price is at an amazing position. We're not gonna go into technicals. You'll have to join us next week for that one. I'll show you exactly how to read this. This is just gonna be a quick illustration of how easy it is to trade with ThinkOrSwim. So price currently, 22.87. You can see it moving around. You can see the sales coming through, the size of the sales, right? So someone just bought 500 shares. Someone just bought 160 shares, okay? So as it's this easy. I'm gonna click where I want to enter, okay? I get a little confirmation window. You're gonna wanna make sure, you know, you didn't click something crazy here, like you don't wanna buy 1,000 shares, which would be $22,000. Right now I'm gonna buy one share, you know, we're gonna start our position, 22.87, $0 commission, this is a free trade. Go ahead and click send. Okay, now notice that I actually clicked to enter at 22.88. It got me in at the current best price. Or I'm sorry, I should say, it moved it down to the current price. Okay, so now I'm in, I'm down 2 cents. I'm starting to freak out. I'm gonna sell the position and run away. Just kidding. So let me go back to one thing we talked about last week. This is our basic strategy. This is something you really got to get your head wrapped around too, because this is how you make a ton of money doing this. You're not trying to be the hero. You're following this strategy, and you really can't lose if you follow this strategy. Okay, I bought one share of Intel. Now, by default, they show you a watch list of your current account. So here's the watch list we created earlier, right? Let's see if I can move this up. That doesn't matter. Okay, so here's the watch list we created earlier. You're gonna fill these in with those symbols on inside of Trade Canary. Here's my current account position, okay? So I'm holding one share of Intel, some other brief, you know, or some daily activity stuff, right? It's up 1.828% today. Net liquidation. So I have one share. If I sell it right now, it's worth $22.85, okay? Now back to active trader over here. I hope I'm not jumping around too fast for you guys. Brian, let me know if you want me to slow down or if something strikes you as a question. I can see where I'm in at. I'm in at 22.83. You can see it marked there on the active trader, right? So if I buy another share, it's going to move my average up. See how that moved up? So there's my current average, 22.84. Here's my profit since opening. And here's my average price, 22.83. I have too long. It now shows that I have too long on Intel. Now, remember, we set up these linkages. I've got all mine on red, so let me switch back to red on here from my example. Okay, I flip it back to the micro S&P. I can now click, because I'm linked red here, I can click back on my position of Intel, and we're back at Intel. Okay, final piece on ThinkOrSwim, and just concept coverage. So, stops. What is a stop? A stop is a sell order that you leave in your account that says, if the price goes down to here, just sell it. Now, there are times when you're going to want to use a stop. If you're doing a swing trade, that's like medium term, right? So you found a great opportunity, looking at the charts, looking at Trade Canary, the company looks solid, but you don't want to fully commit to it. Chart looks great for a swing trade, right? This is a situation where maybe you want to use a stop, because let's say the price does go down 10% from your entry, right? And I'm going to show you some numbers on this. That's very cool to back test in Trade Canary in a second. But price goes down 10%. You don't want to hold this. This is not something you're accumulating. It was a swing trade. It didn't work out. That stop's just going to get you out. Now, let me show you how to do that. So you can do it on the active trader. You know, I can just click over on the right-hand side. Remember, to buy, I was buying on the left-hand side. I was clicking to purchase. So, you know, let me buy one more share, okay? Oops, I had it set to 0. Okay, let's just buy one share. All right, here's my third share. I've now got 3 shares, so let's go to 3 shares. We can set a stop order, you know, down here, okay? So you can see it says sell 3 as a stop. So if price gets down to 22.67, auto executes, I sell my 3 shares. This is a protective measure. Like I said though, there are situations where using a stop is going to lose you money. You know, if you want to accumulate a position, you need to be willing to be down on that position for some time period. Now, I can't tell you what that number is. I will tell you, I have been up 600-700% on something I was down 30% on before. So how do you hold something and control your emotions where you're down 30% on it? Well, let me go back to inside of Trade Canary. So time is on your side. The thing that separates a bad investment or a bad trade is frequently time. Very few to no people, and this is the reason that day trading is something we'd highly recommend against, except for in certain situations. Time is not on your side. If you're inside of Trade Canary and you've got a 5-star company, and we'll look at this in just one second. If you've got a 5-star company, you know management's buying, you know the idea is solid. Like mini nuclear reactors that have zero, they're 100% clean, and they're quadruple the amount of energy output of a coal reactor. You know it's coming, you know they're the best in class, the management team is buying, the company is extremely sound. Well, okay, you know what? I'm down 30%. How do we manage that? Well, that is exactly where our strategy timeline, our entire strategy for making a ton of money revolves around. So let me just go back through this piece again, which we did last week. So we found an insider buying. Okay, that might be one of our great clues, one of the best clues to start a position. A new idea came along, right? That's a great clue to initiate. Now, if you don't have insider buying, but you got a great idea and you found a good company, well, we're looking inside of Trade Canary for a fundamental perspective on it. So is the company healthy, right? So let me pull one up here. I'm accumulating PayPal right now. I can't tell you guys what to do. I'm not a CFA, but I can tell you what I'm doing. Look at this. This is mega solid. They're making $8 billion a quarter. They have 13 billion in debt. Okay, fine. They're pulling $1 billion in profit per quarter. They have 9 billion in cash. Okay, I'm gonna stop saying okay. They have a debt to equity in the green. So that means they have more equity than debt. That's something you definitely want to see, right? Our only red here, and it doesn't really matter, is that the price of the stock compared to the fundamental assets of the company is above 1. Now that doesn't really matter. I can find you companies that have 100x their price to book. So it's price to book, we're calling this price compared to the company value. So the price of the stock is 3.5x just the book value of the company. So if PayPal had to liquidate for some reason, that means that the price of the stock is 3x worth the entire liquidation. Their buildings, their vehicles, their cash, right? Their 9 billion in cash. That all is added up into the equity. So this is a killer trade, and you know what? Let me just round this example out by looking at it on the chart. And again, this will be next week's deal. We're not going to go too deep into it. Look at this. This is the monthly view of PayPal. That's about as glorious of a setup as I've ever seen for a 5-star company. Okay. You know what? Let me finish off the stop stuff. We're gonna come back to PayPal in one sec here. Okay, Intel. Let's go back to Intel. We clicked it. It's a linked chart. It immediately showed up in my configuration. I'm up 1 penny. I'm feeling quite wealthy. I can eat ramen for lunch. So our stop, you can see it sitting here. Now, in some cases, in most cases, your stop's going to be much lower. So I've got it at 22.67. So that's like 0.10% lower, right? Or 0.2% lower. Most of the time, if you are dealing with a stop, it's going to be significantly lower. So watch what we can do here. We can just grab our stop. We can drag it down and find the price we actually would want to get out at. Okay, so let's say 21.23. You know what? I'm willing to risk on my 3 shares about $1.50 of down movement, okay? So I drug my stop down. It asks me to confirm it, confirm and send, baby. Our stop is now back down here, and we can walk away and just, you know, whatever happens, happens if this is our swing trade. Now, in the case of Intel, this is one of the ones I'm really accumulating. I think these guys are gonna kill it against popular conception over the last few months, which you could see, absolute price destruction, but it came down into a 40-year channel or 30-year channel here. So this is starting to look like real opportunity here for me. So let's go back to Trade Canary and round out our piece on the timeline. So, all right, PayPal, maybe I've got insider buying. Company fundamentals are gorgeous. Technicals are absolutely gorgeous. We're not talking options yet, and we're not even in this process yet. So, you know, PayPal's up 15% in the last couple weeks here. Okay, there's some room to correct on it, right? But, you know, the previous all-time high is 300. It's currently 78 or something like that, okay? So we've got a real wide berth there of movement, and we're at the lower end of the range. So I'm not even thinking about the last three steps here. I'm not looking at doing covered calls. I'm not looking at something changed because we're in the build-up position here. They've got a new CEO. He's saying all the right things. I see PayPal everywhere I go on the internet. So it's, if anything, it's going to take over more of the global processing network. And you can find their numbers. They're astronomical. They're processing billions and billions and billions of dollars. So healthy company, technicals great. We're in the accumulation phase. So, okay, it's up at 78. Let's say I bought 100 shares today. That's $7,000, right? $7,800. Let's say it goes back to kind of where it was consolidating for the last, where the price was consolidating for the last 6 months, around, you know, the high 60s. So now I'm down 15%, all right? Well, so how do we deal with that? Am I buying a solid company? That is what lets you sleep at night, because then being the hero that's trying to time the charts and get the literal bottom tick of a company, right, who's never going to make much money in the first place. We can never be that guy. So you have to initiate a position somewhere on the chart, right? So this is where we say, how do you avoid making a terrible decision that prevents you from sleeping at night? Well, we're buying in waves. We're DCA, dollar cost averaging. You can't bottom tick buying a chart. In recent times, I think PayPal's bottom in the last year was about 58, something like that. In fact, let's just pull it up and let's look. PayPal. All right, so we'll look at the monthly so we have a very broad view. So each one of these candles is a month of time, okay? You can see we've been consolidating here. Our bottom was 51, okay? Well, if I've determined that PayPal right now is about to break out, am I gonna wait for it to come back to 51? It might never do that. It might do that. So how do we handle that? Well, we buy in waves. We buy our first, I recommend buy one share. Just watch it. You know, I've got 3 shares of Intel. I'm currently up 11 cents. Okay? So I can watch this without much money on the line and understand where I'm at, both technically, and I'm feeling out the way the stock moves. And then I'm looking for opportunity. So then our second purchase, really, I say 3 waves. What I'm suggesting though is you buy 1 share, and that's not wave 1. Okay, buy 1 share to feel it out. Get it onto your current position watch list so that you're seeing it. You know, you check your phone app, maybe at the end of the day when all the prices close, just to see where it's at, get a handle on it, right? All right, well now PayPal comes down to, let's say, the mid 70s. All right, buying 100 shares. All right, let's say it goes down to 68. And you know, if you watched our webinar last week, I gave you 4 reasons that a stock moves. Okay, most of them are not going to be moving based on fundamentals. They aren't reporting earnings. You know, maybe some news story came out or something. You can check that in Trade Canary. I'll show you that in a second. But point here is, Stocks move for a bunch of different reasons, those 4 primaries, and that gives us opportunity. So my first purchase was at 77. It goes down to 72. You know what? I'm now going to buy 200 shares. Let's say it goes down to 51. Okay, so maybe after my first 2 waves, I'm now just going to sit on the sidelines. I'm either going to buy this when it breaks out for my final position. Granted, I'm going to get less shares, or I'm going to be waiting a month, just watching what it does. Maybe it's 2 months. And if it goes down to that 50, I am happy because I'm buying a 5-star legend whose numbers look amazing. And if you hold for 365 days, kind of side point here, if you hold for 365 days, when you go to sell, you're at that low tax rate to sell it, right? On capital gains, it's 15% versus whatever your income tax rate is. So there's a reason to hold for 365 days. I have stocks, I have multiple accounts, trading accounts with Schwab for different purposes. I have one I don't even look at. It's just dividends, things that I know are going to go up within maybe the next 5 years, something like that, right? I've got an account for short-term, medium-term trades, where what I do is I take the profit or I take free shares, and then when you have them all linked into your master Schwab account, which if you guys have any questions about doing, if you get to that point, let me know. But you can link all your Schwab accounts. I'll take, instead of capital gains, money in profit, I'll take free shares and I'll send them to my set it and forget it account, right? So I'm just building out these positions for different reasons. I'm accumulating capital, I'm keeping liquidity. And that gives me access to take advantage of opportunity when it presents itself. Remember COVID, the end of the world's coming. The market was down 40% in like a month or something like that. If you had control of your emotions, if you had liquidity, if you were following this exact strategy, you knew what was about to happen. Opportunity was about to strike. 3 months later, the market's at an all-time high, and you got in on world-class 5-star companies at a multi-year bottom, and you rode that up for 2 years. So there's another aspect of the emotion. I know I already said this. If you're up big on something, your instinct is to sell. Let me give you an example of this to round out, and we'll finish up this ThinkOrSwim piece. I was buying huge into AMD. The best way is probably to show this on the weekly chart. You know what? I'm going to get rid of these indicators so that it doesn't distract you guys. So we're going to remove all the studies. Again, I'll give you the profile. You'll get access to that. We're going to talk through all of it. So you're ready to do technical trading as well. Okay, AMD. Let me get to the right year. Okay, here is where I realized AMD was about to become a powerhouse. They got a new CEO. Their new hyper-threading chips were impressive and starting to beat Intel. And I've been building my own computers for 30 years, so I know the industry just from that. And I guess there's a point to be made there. If you're looking for ideas, sometimes they're right in front of your face. It's the stuff you're interacting with on a daily basis. So I've been writing software and using AMD and Intel processors, gauging their difference. I kind of know it, right? So I did not buy AMD at 161. I was starting to buy in the 6s. So I got about 10,000 shares here, $60,000, right? So 2016, 2015, I have about 60,000 into AMD. Think about what was happening to my mind here if I didn't realize how to control emotion. Look at this. So, okay, I'm up now 30 grand on my 60,000 position, right? I'm up 30 grand. Well, I hate to inform you, but a month later, I'm now back to break even. I'm up 30 grand. I'm down 30 grand. If you look at the social kind of media world of this, they're trying to game this out. They have no clue how to make money because they're just trying to be the hero. They're trying to get rich quick. Fast forward, 2018, I have 10,000 shares. I'm not worried about the fact that I've up 30 grand, down 30 grand, up 30 grand. Oh, look at what happened here. 2016, I'm red. Now could I have traded this? Sure, okay, I could have, but what would I have missed? I probably would have pulled my 30 grand and maybe I'd get back in, but maybe I'd moved on, right? So my idea that was extremely solid, the new CEO, the new chips, the fundamentals of the business were shifting upwards, and it was reflected in price a year later. This thing exploded. Now, what am I thinking right here? I'll tell you, I did start taking a little bit of profit, and then it came down here. Okay, so what if you took no profit? Okay, you're up, let's see, $33, right? So my $60,000 is now $330,000. And then a couple weeks later, I'm on the weekly chart, right? Yeah, okay, so what do we have here? We have a month and a half. My 330 is now 170,000. I still know what's coming though. The numbers are playing it out. Now, if you guys remember what happened right here, it was post-election. There was some weird China stuff happening. Everybody started melting down. If you weren't in AMD before, this is a fantastic opportunity. Now, look what happened if you just stuck with this. Now, granted, it took you, all said and done, it took you 4 years to get up here, but you're now at a 1,000% gain. Your 60,000 is 800 grand, all right? And then you start really scaling out. Now, that doesn't mean you made a mistake if you started selling at one of these peaks, but I've been down this road before. It's really hard to say, I had a 6 average on AMD, and now I'm rebuying it because I wanted my, my $100,000 in profit. Even though I knew the story is solid, some macro event did this, right? Or whatever that is. It's real hard to rebuy. So of that 10,000 shares, I only have 1,000 left in my set it and forget it account. I started scaling out here in the 80s. Boy, what was that? 2019? I think it was 2019. All right, so that's just to illustrate. This is about getting rich over time, knowing solid companies. Let me flip over to Trade Canary here quick and pause and make sure I'm on the right agenda here. So we covered stops, we covered selling, we covered the basics of ThinkOrSwim. I'm willing to deep dive on this in the Q&A part, you guys, on anything you have a question on, how to configure, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've got something, please throw it out in the questions there. So Trade Canary, getting started with this then. So this is our window into opportunity generation, idea generation. Sorry, looking for the dashboard here. So first thing you're probably gonna wanna do, if you're holding stocks or you've got an idea, you bought your first 1 share. Let's go over to monitor your portfolio. Come on and load. Oh, you know what? I might have gotten logged out because I've been sitting here for so long. All right, maybe I did, and I don't want to lose this page. So let me actually just, okay, there we go. Sorry, I just was being impatient. All right, so this is where we are going to circle your stocks and watch them like a hawk. We're looking for the weak one in the pack to alert to. So you've got a portfolio? Well, start putting in here what you're already holding. Look those companies up, click plus on the watch list. Let's see, we'll just find one random. I'll type in DA. Okay, so here's all, there's DoorDash. We've all heard of DoorDash, right? So let's watch DoorDash. And being slow. There we go. Come on. All right, we're now watching DoorDash. Did you show up here? Huh. All right, well, fortunately, I'm the developer, so I can look at that when we're done here. So we're watching DoorDash. We're now monitoring for health. You can get a quick a quick view into the charts on your watch list here. So I'm just gonna talk through this quick so you guys know what you're looking at. So 52-week price range. That means from today minus 52 weeks. Where's our top and our bottom? And then our current price is where the yellow little arrow is. So you can kind of quick scan this, and this might be a great way to monitor where you're gonna start doing dollar cost averaging. If you're down, this is one I love. I'm gonna look at this in just a second with you guys. Absolutely love this company idea, ALTM. way bottom of the price range. We've got 5 insider buying. It's a little expensive compared to sales, but I think that's about to change. So okay, they're just getting started with Trade Canary. Put what you're watching, what you bought that one share of, or what you're currently holding in your 401k, your IRA, or your trading account on here. We're going to alert you immediately to something that changes that you need to be aware of. It's not noisy. It's not like we're sending you something every day. And we might add some options like that. Like we've got this AI news system. If you want to be alerted to a news report every day, and people start asking me to add code to be able to do that, we'll add it in. But for the most part, you're not going to hear from us about these companies unless something really changes. And that can be the good or the bad, right? So CEO puts down $1 million into the company, we want you to know immediately. So we'll send you an email out the second the SEC logs it. We're scanning the SEC constantly. All right, so that's place number 1 to start. Number 2, and we're going to stick with long-term holds. This, I would just start here. Long-term holds. This medium-term hold, short-term hold back testing with current matches can get you into trouble until you start listening. Insider trading is great. It's like long-term holds, but we're 100% looking for insider trading. So let's just go through this real quick. I know we went through it last week. So what this tool is doing is looking backwards in history at 30 years of market data, 100% accurate market data, combined with 100% filed with the SEC income statement, cash flow statement, balance sheet that the company puts out during their earnings report. Then we let you, this is a canned strategy, long-term. This is what we're saying. You just want to start, you don't know anything about technicals, you don't care about fundamentals yet. Just click here, click search. We're going to simulate what happened if you held this portfolio for 1 year and put in $10,000. So in this case, back testing through history, we found 1,445 matching configurations of the strategy. We made 50.46%. We stopped out, and we have a 20% default configuration here. We stopped out, remember the stops, right? Auto sell if it gets down to a price. We stopped out at 20% and simulated through all of that. We made $5,000, 50%. We subtract our 642 from that, so this actually would have been 15.5 something, right? Or 15.7. We are holding $511 in losing positions. So, okay, I've got losing positions. Now what? Well, emotion control. How do we get emotion control? We look in Trade Canary for the company rating. We make sure that all the key indicators we're going to look at just in a sec here are pointing in the direction we expect. If not, I'll tell you, I use manual stops in a lot of situations. And that kind of goes back to this graphic here. So at the end point here, did something change? I mean, are these guys just being complete idiots? You know, some terrible decision in the business that's fundamentally changing what I thought was happening here? That's not impossible. It's going to happen to you. This is another part of the emotion control. It's not, I'm red, I'm out because I can't take it. Well, if you're thinking that and you're losing sleep because of that, it means your position size is too big, or it means you bought a company you don't trust. So we get that trust by looking at the health of our company, knowing who the management team is. Are they inside buying? I don't need to know much more. You bought $1 million of your own cash in the company that you're running. Boom, I'm in, I'm following you. All right, so our simulated trade. Now, in a lot of cases, we aren't going to find an exact match. We want the algorithm that we are setting up here to not find constant matches. We want an algo that's spitting out really great opportunity that pays big over time. But, so let's say we don't have exact matches. In this case, we don't have, from this week's price action and this quarter's filings, we don't have exact matches. Well, what do we do in that case? Well, we still want to show you something that's really close. So these are the closest matches to that configuration. And we'll deep dive into configuration, defining your own algorithms. We'll get into that. That's not for this webinar though. So, okay, we've got some ideas spit out here. So we can scroll through these, and I mean, real quick, you can just look for green on the screen in the fundamentals in the middle section. You can look for the price configuration. Here's our 52-week view into the chart. We're lower half, in this case, ATRC. It's 29.05 today. I'm going to talk through all of these little pieces here so you guys know what we're looking at. So the 9-week average. You know what? Let me briefly flip back to our chart. Let me throw a couple studies on here. I've got a few defined we'll give you full access to. Long-term simple. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the one here I don't want you to focus on. All right. Moving averages. These lines here, see how they move out this price, or I'm sorry, smooth out this price action? So as our price is actually fluctuating greatly, our 200-day, that's this red dashed line, our 200-day average price is smoothing it all out for us. All right, our next one up, the 50-day, let me go back here and show you that this is all here. So 50-day average, 29.20. So here's our 50-day average. See how it's following the price a little bit more? That's because it's 50 days back, not 200 days back. So the 200 smooths it out. The 50 follows price a little bit more. And let me just make one quick point on technicals. Look at this. Look at how price meets up to the 50 here and reverses. Now, is it going to do that every time? No, absolutely not. Let me remove one more here. I don't want you guys to get distracted. We're just looking at moving averages. And I only want to show you the ones that are explicitly in Trade Canary. Okay, so look at how price moves along. So these are the algos. These are the automated machines. You know, every Friday when people get paid, the hedge funds, the management teams, they have what's called passive buying. They just buy no matter what. Now they're trying to find things that time with a technical, as well as are represented by a solid company like you're going to see in Trade Canary. You know, PayPal, absolute domination, 5-star. So those automated buying machines, they're looking at that fundamental piece, and they're looking at the price from a technical perspective. That's why you see it starting to line up here like this. You know what's so interesting though? I can go back to the 1800s and I can chart where price matches these technicals as well. How does that happen? Well, it's some combination of human interaction, right? So it's not just machines. I mean, think about the algos that are being trained and programmed to make these buy and sell decisions here. I mean, look at how well that matches up. This is our 20-day moving average price, 20 periods back, right? So you take 20 of these candles. What's the average price? Well, in the case of the 20-day, or I shouldn't say day, 20 period, we're currently looking at the weekly chart. So this is a 20-week average price. Look at how the price lines up. You can see here's some downward pressure, right? Came right down to the 20 and it paused and it bounced. So this is where maybe once you get adept to this, this is maybe where you start figuring out how to do some shorter term stuff. And we'll help you out with that. But that's for the future. If you're just getting started and you opened your Schwab account, I don't want you even thinking about this. My point here is to illustrate technicals tell you something. Fundamentals tell you something. Look at how the 50-day, look at how price just rode it for a month to 3 months here. It just was riding this 50-day, all right? And all of a sudden, boom, we detonate above it. Now I can find some technical that shows you that this might have been predicted. You can't trust it though. You can't just fully be a technical trader unless you're willing to sit there day in and day out and become a chart nerd. And even then, all of a sudden you're in danger of being that FOMO, get rich quick trade guy. So it's better to understand technicals from the perspective of planning out your positions. All right, I bought my first share. Where is my second ad? Where do I do wave 1, 2, and 3? 100 share, 200 share, 400 share purchases, right? This is going to help you with that. So back to Trade Canary. We want you to be able to just quick scan on some of these results, and you'll find it throughout the tools, right? So on your watch list, here is that price range. Now we are hiding the averages there because it clutters it up a bit. But let's just go back to this. Okay, so our 9-week average, 24.50. It is pointing up, and it is the purple caret. So here's our price, right? So current price, 29.05. 9-week average pointing up. So that means the average price is moving up. If you think about this period right here, right? So here's the 20-week. It's moving up. And what tends to happen is price and moving averages converge. So if my price was way here at the top end of the range, all of a sudden the averages turn down and start going lower in the range, it's going to drag the price along with it. So to clarify what I said there, the moving average prices, if they are pointing down and they're in the lower half of that 52-week range, most likely it's going to at least temporarily pull that 29.05, down with it. So you can quick scan this without needing to be becoming a chartist. This is giving you that 52-week range. Where's our current price in the 52-week? Am I comfortable buying here? Sometimes, let me see if we can find one here. Sometimes you find a breakout, new 52-week high, and we flash a little buzzer thing next to it. I don't have one here. Let's see. Okay, so throughout these price schemas, look here, new 52-week high in Palantir. This thing has been an absolute beast. It's at the top end of the range, right? So new 52-week high. Well, okay, does that scare me? It really depends. Sometimes a new 52-week high and beastly price action, which it's going up with momentum, is a great thing, and you can just follow along with it, right? Now, for something that I'm looking to get a buy on that's low, let me show you guys ALTM. No, you know what? Before we move to that, because we're going to round it out with ALTM and some PayPal analysis and go through those. So what am I using this tool for? Idea generation, finding opportunities, and we're scanning for green on the screen. We're looking at the price configuration. Does it make sense to make that entry? We're buying our one share. We're watching it for a little bit. We're thinking through what this actually does, right? So how did I make insane gains on AMD? I had my own inside information. I knew the industry a little bit. Now, you don't have to be a master. It's as easy. I'll give you another little tip, a stock tip that I heard recently that I did take advantage of. About 4 months ago, someone told me that college kids are just getting huge into sports gambling. This was, boy, I guess it must have been here late 2023. So someone said that to me. They said they're not into video games, they don't like drinking, but what they do love is sports gambling. So I just, I'm not into sports particularly. I'm not into gambling at all. It's binary outcomes, but I am into idea generation. So when I heard that, I just went online. I just Googled who are the big sports gamblers, and I found DraftKings. So I looked at the chart configuration. I looked at the company configuration in Trade Canary, and I said, you know what, this thing is about to explode. Now let's zoom this out a little bit here. All right, so our previous high was 74.38. Are the company fundamentals solid? Oh, that's my next question, right? Or that actually should be my first question. But my idea generation was what led me there, and it's turned into quite the profitable trade from 29 to 40. That's just a quick example. That to me is midterm. I'm not committed to DraftKings in the same way I am on something like PayPal. I want to hold PayPal for the monster move I think that's coming. So in any event, this tool is about idea generation, back testing your ideas. And we're going to just finish it up quick here. I'm going to show you this last part. So if you go to advanced, this is the only thing you take away from advanced right now. You can define your own algo. So once you find something that looks fantastic, you're producing 50% back tested, really happened in history, not us guessing, happened in history, 50% gains. You find something, you play with this tool until you get that configuration where it's producing what you're looking for. look, we can go in here, we can define a strategy, give it a name. I should not have clicked that. Click Save Strategy. Once it's saved, it'll show up on your list here. Click Monitor. See, you can turn monitoring on and off. So, oh, look at that. So I only gained 43% on my saved primary swing, okay? Well, I now need to start asking some questions though. I called this primary swing. I'm not gonna go off the deep end on this. We obviously have some different results here though. So, but maybe, you know, if I flip this down to being only 90 days, maybe the algo produces something different, right? So it's what we're trying to do. So anyway, I'm sorry for the distraction there. We can define a strategy, we can save a strategy, we can enable monitoring. So that when we, look at this. Okay, so I flipped it down to 90 days, all right? 15% gained. Well, okay, think through that though. So we just did 1/3, right? Or I'm sorry, 1/4 of the time period. In that time period, we got about 43% at the 1 year. As a 90-day strategy, I produced 15%. And we got 2,319 matches over 20 or 30 years of history, right? So, you know what? Actually, I should be very clear about that. We are trying to do the cutoff on what we're looking back to at 2000. Before that gets a little fuzzy and the earnings reports were filed a little differently. So to be clear, we're looking at 24 years of data, though we do go back into the 90s for price. Okay, anyway, back on track. So I've defined a strategy, I'm monitoring the strategy. Now, rather than you know, a closely related match, if we don't get an exact match, I'm gonna get an email when there's an exact match. So you can define that sweet primo setup. Set it up for monitoring, and you don't need to do anything else other than wait for that email to come in that says, look, insider buying, extremely great value price to book. The moving average configuration, we'll go into this next week as far as how to set it up, is matching. And in the past, you know, that produced 100% gain if I hold it for 60 days, right? So, something like that, right? That's how we're thinking about it. Okay, so we've now found our idea. We've got it on our watch list. We've surrounded that company with our 3 vectors of insiders, fundamentals, and technicals. We're watching it. We don't have to worry about it anymore. It just becomes a question of where am I in this strategy, all right? So when we're looking at an idea, what are we looking for? Green is usually, green on the screen, primary indicator. If you just want to scan, or even just look at the star rating, right? If we find something that from a company perspective looks dangerous, you're gonna see it reflected in the stars. Going down a little bit, we kind of already looked through these, but earnings per share, right, means they made $1.40, this is PayPal. They made $1.40 per share that quarter. The price of the stock compared to the price of the sales, so that's, you know, they're making some amount in sales, you know, $3 billion, right? What if, and the market cap is $1 billion. That means, sorry, I went the wrong way on that. So let's say they made $3 billion in sales and they have a $9 billion market cap. So market cap, right? That's price of stock today times number of shares they have. So their price of the stock compared to the price of the sales. You can just get a quick view. You know, how fairly priced is the stock compared to how many sales they make. Income, this is what they bring home. They're bringing home the bacon after they pay all their fees. They made almost $1 billion in income last quarter. 7.6 billion in revenue. So they're just, you know, raw amount of money coming into the company. 13 billion in debt, 9 billion in cash. Quick view down here. Here's their debt to their cash, to their revenue, to their income. I'm not going to get long-winded on this piece. Every industry is slightly different. If you're looking at something that is resource intensive, they might use debt to do it. So debt does not tell you the full story. Revenue and income definitely are giving you a window into it though, and how much cash do they have in the bank? All right, keeping on the theme of the company. So quick scan this. If you don't have time to figure out all this stuff, look for green on the screen, look for a decent ratio here, and understand what you're buying into. You know, diamond mining in Africa If you don't know anything about it, you probably don't want to buy the stock. All right, quick scan, PayPal, earnings per share, trending up. Income, this one can get wide and wild. What happened to their income here? Well, remember, so income is bringing home the bacon. It's what they're putting into the bank after paying taxes and fees and all this and all the stuff that a business needs to operate, right? Income's what they're coming home with. So sometimes a company income will dip because they paid off some debt, or they, there are some tax strategies that companies will use that dip their income so they can then, take a loss. And I'll tell you, if something like that, a strategy that the business is employing, this is what it looks like, because the next quarter it came right back up, right? Revenue increasing, beautiful. Cash increasing, beautiful. Debt rate, it bumped up, but it's not getting out of control. They have it under, they're dealing with their debt. Current insider positions, this is another big one too. So the C-suite, what are these guys holding? If their average price is 0, that means they're getting awarded, and most of them are 0. This is not something that should turn you off. Part of a compensation package for a C-suite might be shares, right? Board of directors, less important than C-suite, C-suite, CEO, CFO, etc. You can see what they're holding here, how many shares. You can search for history of them. We're limiting this to back to 52 weeks, or I'm sorry, to most recent buyer purchase from a C-suite. And then you can search through this, of course. I'll let you guys play with it on a per stock basis. And then we've got our AI news terminal. Again, something you can scan. If you see a high relevancy to your company, to the company you might be interested in, and a bunch of green, well, maybe you just read maybe you read the headline, right? Now, if you want to go a little deeper, you can read the actual article, but it's certainly not necessary. In fact, this is kind of what this AI thing is doing for us. You can make some bad statements about what this will do to our overall information base, but we aren't worried about that. AI can tell us a language perspective on text, and that's exactly what this part of the tool is doing. So if you want to scan through the news as it comes in, you can see it's live, right? So 9/24, that's today. We've got a couple articles that we ran through our language model today for PayPal. You can see that it's trending into bullish, almost all bullish, right? And one final comment on this, we are looking for high relevancy. So if it's not relevant to PayPal, maybe it gets mentioned. Like PayPal was mentioned in this article, but it's only 4.79% relevant. In other words, the language doesn't revolve around PayPal. So we're going to gray those out. We don't particularly care. What we're looking for is high relevancy, and then what's the rating for it? Is it bullish? Here's an 82% somewhat bullish, right? So smart money is betting big on PayPal options, and that's from 9/20. Right? So my confidence grows, my emotions are in control. I can start doing the wave adding once I've checked through what we're showing you here on these pages. One final one I want to show you guys that I am building a very large position in. I'm over 100K on this one right now. So this ALTM, these guys are out of the US. They're the only lithium refiner in the US, lithium used for lithium ion batteries, right? Almost all of this comes into China. And this is I think a great example of idea generation going through our strategy timeline. So in this case, with ALTM, it was another one of those AMD moments for me. I geek out about science stuff. New technologies, new energy sources. I like it. So I already knew about lithium. There is no great replacement for lithium even on the horizon yet. There's these salt batteries, but they weigh 20 times as much. They aren't good for cars. So lithium is where we're going to be for the foreseeable future. These guys are the only ones in the US that refine it. They're a US-based company, which I love. Now, there are some macro stories. China was dumping lithium onto the market. It brought the price down. look at where we are on the price range of this company. And I'm going to pull up the chart real quick here. ALTM. Okay, now these guys are a merger from the two biggest US companies. So I actually started buying this when it was Livent, and they merged at the beginning of this year. So we don't have much chart data on this. This is a pre-existing idea for me, so it became ALTM. The two big lithium US companies merged and formed Arcadia Lithium, ALTM, okay? So I know the idea, I know where it's going. I am on an extreme low of this price because China dumped all this lithium on the market. And I don't know if you guys were paying attention to it, but in the last few months here, there's this kind of idea that EV is not going to work out. Absolutely false. There's a lull, but if you actually look at the sales of EV cars, they're up. Not to mention, lithium is not just used in EV cars, right? It's used, we have all of it in our phones. This is fundamental to the world. Now, I am not trying to convince you guys on any level to buy LTM. I can't even legally suggest that you do this. I'm just talking you through how I think through it. So, solid company. Cash, 380 million. Debt, 634 million. Revenue, 254 million in a quarter, right? They took home 85 million. Another thing I'd love to do is figure out the management team, like, are these guys solid, smart people? So I've watched an interview with the CEO on YouTube just to feel them out. You can give it 10 minutes. You can read somebody real fast. Is this a smart person? Okay, now we're gonna get into this piece next week because it is complicated, but price overview. To me, I wanna buy here. I wanna buy big here, but our price quick view is not great. And two pieces to this. A, we're always working on tweaking this aspect of it. And B, the price action is awful, but that doesn't mean this isn't the right entry point, right? So you've got to know what you're looking at with this price piece. And I'll tell you just, quick view on where we are in the 52-week range. We're at the very low end. We're almost at the bottom. Average analyst target, $8. That's low. When lithium turns around, this is going to be a $20 stock. So you're looking at a 1,000% gain from current price. Again, please do not buy this company. I know what I'm talking about with it. I'm using it as an example to talk through what I'm looking for. We have insider buying. We have non-piker purchases. They're flagged with the star. They're putting tens of thousands into it, right? News flow. Not immediately green. The lithium story is tough. China's involved. So we don't get as much news feed on this one. This is back to 110, but here's an example, right? So it's only 20% relevant to ALTM, but I guarantee you what they're talking about here is China dumping in the story, right? So it's that simple. It's idea generation, company health and Trade Canary, setting up your watch list. So we have that. We are circling the traffic cops around your stocks, and then using the Find Opportunities tool to set up a back test to test a strategy with real data, set it up for monitoring, looking through the idea generation that comes from that, and then executing the strategy that you're going to find on this training piece here. Okay,